We all do it. Circle time is an almost universally accepted practice in preschool. However, in 2018, a study published in the Elementary School Journal called Circle Time Revisited found that in all of their observations, the quality of instruction during circle time was low. Teacher talk far outpaced child talk. And in 40% of the classrooms, the children were not actually engaged in circle time. So, what's the real story about circle time? I'm Nicole Dravilis-Rabel, and this is Wildwood Teaching. And today, we're going to talk circle time, why we do it, why it might not be as effective as we want it to be, and how emergent nature-based methods might be the fix. So circle time is prevalent in early child classrooms. We've been told how important circle time is, that it is good for social development, right? You give children practice in sharing ideas, you do songs together, you do games with movements in a group setting, you are practicing turn taking, right? You are hopefully giving children confidence and self-esteem and a sense of community when we are doing something together as a group. And circle times are expected to give children practice with language as they listen to the teachers and the classmates and express their ideas. Circle times are supposed to provide children with motor skill practice, right? Coordination as they dance and play games. Circle times can improve focus while children increase their attention spans as they're engaging in these group activities. And circle time is supposed to be the opportunity to address and reinforce cognitive skills, right? We do it first thing in the morning when children are supposedly fresh, and that's when we practice emergent literacy, when we're practicing math skills. And all of these expected outcomes are extremely positive. But unfortunately, what the authors of this Circle Time Revisited study found was that these were not the actual outcomes of circle time. And now their study focused on state-sponsored preschool programs for low-income families. And so you might be tempted to say that the results are not transferable, right? It's just due to the particular sample that they were looking at. But I'm going to go out on a limb here and venture to say that they would probably find the same results in many preschools, whether they were private, whether they were serving a higher income families, because we have been focusing too much on the latter two outcomes, right? The academic cognitive skills that we are trying to reinforce through activities like calendar time, through phonics drills, through a lot of rote memory tasks that are not promoting language development. And we're trying to get children ready for kindergarten by having them sit and listen for longer and longer periods of time in the name of increasing attention spans. And then we've ignored the other benefits, right? Giving children lots of opportunities to practice language, to create a sense of community and belonging that are then going to build confidence, self-esteem. We've taken the movement out of circle time. And so we're not even working on motor skills during circle time. Now, I found out that circle time, in its original incarnation, the person who coined the term circle time, was a specific practice. Right? Everybody sat in a circle because a circle is equal. Right? There is no teacher at the head. Right? Everybody is on equal footing. And so everybody is in that community of learners and expected and encouraged to contribute in an equal way. And the main point of that circle time, and the reason that it was at the beginning of the day, was actually not because this is when the children are fresh and this is the only time that they can do academic skills. It was because we wanted to start the day as a community of learners and really going around the circle and convincing everybody that you are important. And we want to listen to what you have to say and listen to your ideas. And singing and moving were an integral part of it. We're going to sing together as a group. We're going to welcome everybody as a group. And now there could be some type of academic goals built into the circle time, but it was done largely through movement, largely through song, or largely through conversation, not this rote memory of, let's do the same thing over and over again so that it hits into your brain. But now kind of the meaning of circle time has morphed, right? Where we use it to refer to pretty much any group gathering that we're doing with the children. And it doesn't matter if we're in a circle or if we're in rows, and it doesn't matter how much the teacher is talking or what the purpose of the tasks you're doing in circle time are. And so oftentimes, we're doing something where maybe teacher is choosing a story, and you've chosen the story because, it's fall and we do apples because preschools do apples in the fall. And it doesn't necessarily have any relevancy to the children or their lives or what they're noticing or what they want to talk about. And then as you finish the story, maybe you're moving into an activity that's an extension of the story. And it's an extension because it matched the story in your teacher brain. And again, that relevancy, that community aspect of it is missing because the children didn't have any input into what story we were going to read or why or what the activity is going to be afterwards. And so how do we make sure that the circle times are relevant to the children and a positive use of their time? And the authors of the Circle Time Revisited study suggest that just small tweaks could have large outcomes. So they're not saying to ditch the stories or to ditch, thinking about academics. But, nature-based preschool programs have kind of this built-in advantage because one of the goals of nature-based programs is to connect children to nature. And because of that, we're allowing plenty of time for children to deeply connect, engage in a hands-on way with their environment and with each other. So our group experiences have kind of a built-in relevancy because they're built on what the children are observing in nature and what they are expressing interest in and what their questions are. And so we do things as a group because one or all of our members of our group has a question about it or has an interest or has asked to do something. So I'm going to use a group time that we did last week as an example for you, just as an illustration of how just small tweaks, right? We're still doing circle time. We're still meeting as a group. We still have a book. But how you can build in lots of time to talk, a way to create a classroom community, build self-esteem, include movement, and cover academics all at the same time in something that is relevant to the children. So we started our circle, as we often do, with a check-in. And our check-in that particular day was we had emojis on a rope, and the children have their pictures on a clip, and they choose a feeling and attach their clip to it. Doesn't have to be feelings. We have similar ropes that have numbers on them, similar ropes that have colors on them, similar ropes that have letters on them. And the idea is then just choose a number that's important to you today. And then we have a discussion about it. So Lincoln had picked the excited emoji, and we said, what are you excited about today? And he said they have this tradition in their family where they have a mystery box. And so we encourage the children to ask questions of each other. We don't go on to somebody else's feeling until we've talked to Lincoln. What's a mystery box? How does that work? And then a couple of other children started to pop in, like we're excited. Amelia was excited because she had a special treat in her lunch. And so we were asking her, do you know what it is, or is it a surprise? And she said she knew what it was, but it was going to be a surprise for the rest of us because she wasn't going to tell us. We were going to have to wait until lunchtime to figure it out. And so we don't go around, we don't actually do all of the children because it takes forever. We do 2 or 3 a day. But everybody's encouraged to be a part of the conversation. So, if somebody mentions how they're excited, other people might tap into how they're excited, or they might tap into what they have in their lunch today. And so I am building listening skills and attention span, right? Their children are listening to each other while having a conversation. So they're not expected just to listen to me drone on and on forever and ever. And then we usually have a welcome song. And my song goes, there are different songs, but I have one that says, hello, everybody, we're glad to have you here. Hello, everybody, we're glad to have you here. And then I would say, hello to Lincoln, we're glad to have you here. And then we have some sort of parameters for what Lincoln might do when we are welcoming him. And our parameter today, we decided that since a couple of people had talked about how they were excited, we were going to continue with that theme. And so when we welcome you, pop up, stand up, tell us when you're excited. What kinds of things make you excited? One thing that makes you excited. I'm excited when. And then it just goes by quickly. I'm excited when it's my birthday. I'm excited when I get to play with my friends. And then if people match, they just pop up and say, me too. And then they sit back down. We go on to the next person. It's a very quick check-in. But again, children are having an input. We're checking in with everybody, how they're feeling. So we know as teachers how to adapt our day. And then we do move into a story, right? And The children have been interested in animal builders, just what we've been investigating. And it's the fall, and so there are a lot of spider webs around. And so the children have wondered and asked a question of what different sizes and shapes can spider webs come in. So we had gone on a little walking tour in the woods, kind of observing spider webs, and I offered to take photographs of the different kind of webs that we saw so that we could remember it and include it in our floor book. I'm only going to briefly talk about floor books because I did training with Claire Warden, so I encourage you to go ahead and take that training. But basically, our floor book, as I tell the children, it is just a book about our school and the things that we are noticing and the questions that we have, and we record it all jointly together in our floor book to just keep track of it, and we can go back and look at it, and it's just a way of organizing our learning. So, this particular circle time, I chose a book about spiders and their webs, and said, we looked at the webs, and so, I know you're interested, and here's a book about spiders. And then after I read the book, I brought out the photographs that we had taken the previous day and said, here are your photographs. And so, I thought it might be interesting if you want to learn about the different kinds of webs and spiders. Here's the book. And I had maybe like 4 or 5 other books about spiders and webs, and 3 of our older children kind of took charge and started flipping through the book and pointing to the pictures. And children had different ways of interacting with the books, right? Some children were looking at the pictures and, kind of holding the photograph up to the picture. Does this match? Does it not? Why does it match? Why doesn't it match? So we're doing some comparing and contrasting. We're doing some observation. Some of the children would actually take the photograph and say, well, we need to look for a web that's shaped like an orb, right? Or that's shaped like a circle. And maybe we're looking at the table of contents and seeing, does it say anything about a circle or an orb web, which was vocabulary we had already used. And then going to that particular page. One child looked at the back of the book, right? The back cover of the book, and it had, all of the different titles in that particular series, which were nonfiction books about animals, and said, oh, there's a shark here. And so it had nothing to do with spiders, but he was doing concepts of French, right? He was learning that a picture matches the words. He was going from picture to picture, from left to right, and still doing some pre-literacy activities and getting excited about books, right? Can we read about sharks' nests? Ooh, I like this. And as the children finished up, and I want to say that, I did the writing here of what they told me to write, which doesn't necessarily have to be scientific or real. So this one says tangled web, and it was made by a house spider. It's not in a house. It's not, but that was what they found that matched that shape of the web. This one said bolus spider in a lion web. I do not think we have any bolus spiders in our particular forest, but all they had left of this web was a line, and so they were looking at what kinds of spiders build that particular web. And so again, using logic, using some on a preschool level, right? And they don't know that bolus spiders aren't in our habitat. As children finished up, and they finished up at different times, as children finished up, they just kind of left the group and went on to do something else that was relevant to them. And I'm going to put in a plug that you do not do anybody any services by forcing the child who wants to do something else to keep doing this activity, because even if they comply and sit still, they are not getting anything out of it. And worse, if they are not complying, you're making everybody frustrated. You, the child, the other children who aren't getting your attention. And then I had one child who stayed long after everybody else had left because we had some photographs that we didn't finish. And that was important to her, finishing all the photographs. And she's already a reader. And so it was something that she was capable of continuing on her own. And, I kind of moved on, but said, I'm here for you, right? If you see something and you want to bring the book to me, I am all there. I'm just moving where a majority of children are. And she continued with it. And this particular group leans on language and literacy skills, but they don't always, right? And so if children are still interested in sizes and shapes of spiders, I might bring in something that's more of a math non-standard measuring idea the next time we have a group gathering. But the point is that you want to start with something that's easily observable in nature. And if you are outside, that makes it easier to observe new things and have something that's interested, that the children are noticing and are interested in. And then you don't have to capture the children's attention because your group gatherings are already doing something that they are paying attention to. And this is when the learning happens. If children aren't engaged, it doesn't matter how many cool things you are saying and how much you are talking or how many times you remind them to be still and listen. It's going to go beyond them. So I'm going to encourage you to use nature-based emergent processes to create circle times that are developmentally appropriate, engage children, are respectful use of their time. And you can lean on the power of nature and a child-led process to engage children in meaningful group gatherings. And I know that emergent nature-based curriculum can seem overwhelming if you're new to it, right? Are you going into this thinking, am I going into every day completely unplanned and just hoping that I'll come up with something on the spur of the moment and that I have access to what I need? Well, no, you're not. And so I would invite you to join me at a webinar on Friday, November 15th, where I'm going to help you come up with a routine that you can lean on so that this is not overwhelming. It's not something brand new to do every day, but you have a way to easily tap into children's interests. And then after the webinar, join me here next week when I will be tackling 3 of the biggest mistakes that teachers might be making when planning lessons, either group times or provocations for preschoolers. I will see you there.